Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and I feel like Xbox has started to get into a bit of a groove this year. In 2023, Game Pass was firing on all cylinders. They got Activision Blizzard, and they had several big releases such as Starfield, they had Forza, and my own personal favorite of the three being Hi-Fi Rush. I absolutely adore that game. Go check it out. It's amazing. Then in 2024, they have more games planned like Hellblade 2. Very much looking forward to that one. Towerborn, and then also Avowed. So things are starting to click for them, and that's the thing about Xbox going into the future. They have such a massive pipeline of both announced and unannounced games because they have so many studios now, and it sounds like one of those studios might have a surprise in store for us in 2024. If you're a fan of Gears of War, then you might want to stay tuned. Then also sounds like PlayStation has their own little secret as well, because it's been discovered that they picked up some interesting employees that could be maybe working on a new game. So we're going to dive into that little mystery as well. But first, this is going to jump right into our first topic of the day, and for you Yakuza fans out there, sounds like a Dragon Infinite Wealth will be a bigger than usual entry. And I know I wasn't expecting this, but in an interview with the director, he claimed that Infinite Wealth will take players 3 to 4 full days without sleep to complete Infinite Wealth. He elaborated by saying that means no sleep, no detours, and almost no side stories, so enjoy the game bit by bit without losing any sleep. So I think that that's quite a surprise if true. That would make it around 72 to 96 hours, and that's not even including its side stories. And when you compare that to other entries within the franchise, that's by far the longest entry in a series. Previously, it was Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon, which on average takes right around 46 hours to complete its main story. Of course, turn-based combat does slow things down a bit, so we do have to kind of keep that in mind as well. But if anything, it sounds like Infinite Wealth will be a pretty sizable game. Now, depending on your own personal preferences, that might be a good thing or it might be bad. It really just all kind of depends on if you like long games. But I think for me, in this situation, as long as the quality is there, which I fully expect when it comes to the Yakuza series, and as long as they don't just try to pad it out with meaningless quests, then I'm personally okay with that extra length. I'm actually kind of expecting this one to be a bit of an emotional roller coaster, and it really might need that extra length to fully tell its story the way that it truly deserves. I'd much rather them take the extra care to tell its story rather than, just kind of rushing through it. Nonetheless, though, Infinite Wealth will be out next month on January 26th, so do make sure to mark your calendars. Moving on, here's something interesting. Liza P could potentially move beyond just gaming. This was revealed by the game director, who said there sure are stories we could not introduce in the game, and I think it makes players wonder if Round 8 Studio is willing to unfold those stories in different forms of media. We have received offers from various parties about it already. Now, they didn't really elaborate on this, and they didn't actually confirm anything, but the one thing that you can see here is that there apparently is a real interest in Liza P, which I never really thought about until now, but it does actually kind of make some sense in the aspect that Liza P is based on Pinocchio. It's just a very dark version of that, and I think that could make for an interesting show or movie if somebody came in and did it the right way. I do think that its universe has a lot to offer. Now, whether or not Hollywood could actually pull off an adaptation, that's always kind of a question. We hope for the best, but, we'll see. But either way, I do get excited for these adaptations simply because it gives these games more recognition. We've seen that time and time again. Just look at Cyberpunk and the Netflix anime Edgerunners as an example. The positive reception for that show gave the game a major boost and injected new life into it. The same can really be said for The Last of Us and the HBO show. So I'd be thrilled to see a Liza P show get made because I want this game to get even more recognition. Personally, I think that it's secretly one of the best games of 2023, and as word of mouth continues, I think more people will kind of understand why I say that. It really is that good, and it deserves more attention. Luckily, though, they've already announced a sequel and DLC. Apparently, we might also get a show or movie in the future. Who knows with all that? But Liza P right now has a very bright future ahead, and pretty excited to see where it goes next. Okay, now as I said in the opening part of the video, I think Xbox has had a pretty good year. I think it's the bounce back that they needed after 2022 because that's really a year that was not great for them in terms of big releases. Now they did have some good quality games in 2022 like Pentiment and Grounded, but they didn't really have the system sellers or the subscription sellers that you would hope to see. The thing is, I think 2023 is kind of the turning point where we start to see more consistency from Xbox. We have Hellblade 2 coming. That's a big game and it looks absolutely gorgeous. It honestly might be the best looking game from a visual standpoint that we've seen thus far, and I'm hoping to see its story pay off in a similar way as the first game. I really enjoyed the first game. There's also Avowed by Obsidian Entertainment. They're renowned as one of the best in the business when it comes to RPGs, so there's definitely some excitement for it as it is a bigger game set in the Pillars of Eternity universe. I know a lot of people really like that franchise, and it'll be cool to see it expand in a more grand way. Now, they also have some small games planned like Towerborn, which I think is important as well. I like the diversity that Xbox brings. We talked about that last week. Overly relying on AAA games alone might not necessarily be the best idea, considering how much they cost in the modern day game development. So it's nice to have these smaller games in between your bigger releases. It's fun for fans as they constantly have something to look forward to, and they don't need to sell 10+ million units to see a return on investment. It's a constant flow of money for them that feeds into their ecosystem. So I do like Xbox's strategy to give us all kinds of games, big and small. In fact, a lot of these smaller games are actually the ones that really take me by surprise. Look at Hi-Fi Rush just this year. I love that game. Turned out to be one of my favorites. Nonetheless, though, I mean, despite Xbox's size, they have 30+ studios now, which is crazy to think about. You know, back in 2017, they only had like 7 studios, I believe. So they've more than quadrupled in size, but there's still a lot of mystery to what they're doing. So 2024 for Xbox isn't just about those new confirmed games, but it's also about lifting the lid for other projects as well. Will we get updates for games like Perfect Dark, Clockwork Revolution? You have South of Midnight, State of Decay 3, Fable, etc., etc. What is id Software working on? What about the Indiana Jones game? What's the plan for Activision Blizzard? There's just so many questions that they could possibly reveal next year, and this also includes the future of Gears of War. Now, Gears of War is a top 3 franchise for me of all time, easily. This is a series that I have a lot of attachment to, and I want to see what they have planned next. I mean, talk about big questions. I'm genuinely curious to see how they'll continue the story after the ending that they went with in Gears 5. You'll kind of know what I'm talking about if you played through it. But interestingly, there is some speculation right now that our answers might come sooner rather than later, because a coalition-level designer mysteriously posted a tweet that simply states, "See you in 2024, #GearsFam." Now, that might not necessarily seem like much, but a lot of people are taking this as a tease that some kind of an announcement for the Gears series is incoming. So this simple tweet has been viewed nearly 100,000 times. It's being retweeted left and right. There's articles all over the place speculating that some type of an announcement is incoming. And I think, to me, the most interesting part about all of this is that this person, Benjamin Hugh, I guarantee that he sees all the speculation and he has yet to correct any of it. He hasn't come out clarifying a single thing, and that's only sparked even more discussion online. Maybe he really is teasing something, because if he's not, why hasn't he corrected it? But that is something to maybe be mindful of here. Just because he might be teasing a Gears announcement in 2024, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that it will be Gears 6. It could also be another spinoff like Gears Tactics. We can't rule that out. Or it could also be the long-rumored Gears of War Marcus Phoenix collection with the original trilogy packed into one single bundle with a possible remake included. Of course, they've already remade Gears 1 with the Gears Ultimate Edition, so maybe next is Gears of War 2. Now, my personal favorite is Gears 3, but no matter what, if these games really do return in a big way, I mean, I am all in for that. Keep in mind, though, that if they do return, they'll also come over to PC and Steam for the first time as well. That's a big part of Xbox's strategy, and that would be a significant announcement. I mean, we'll kind of see what happens with all that, but to any Gears fan out there, 2024 might be a fun year. Okay, now we also have something rather mysterious happening at PlayStation as well. If you remember right, back in 2021, PlayStation announced a partnership with Deviation Games. This was made out to be a significant partnership for them because this studio was made up of several former Call of Duty developers, and they were working on a new ambitious title. It was assumed to be another live service project that would fit into Jim Ryan's ultimate plan for their live service future. However, we've not really heard much since that initial announcement, and what has come out hasn't really been all that great. Back in 2022, one of the founders of Deviation Games, Jason Blundell, left the studio. And then on top of that, just earlier this year, a large portion of the studio was reportedly laid off. So this has since sparked a lot of conversation about what exactly is happening over at Deviation Games. It's currently unclear if they're still even working with Sony or if that game was instead canceled. You know, if Sony bailed out on this project, that would maybe explain the layoffs that we saw earlier in the year. Here's where things start to get really strange though. JC Backfire on Twitter, who's a game designer, posted this. Job update. I've been wanting to say this for a while, but now I finally can. I'm a junior game designer at PlayStation Studios and I work for Jason Blundell. Interestingly, this is the same Jason Blundell that left Deviation back in 2022, the former co-founder of the studio. So to hear he's working at PlayStation is a little bit of a surprise. This is the first time that we publicly heard this, and now fans are kind of digging around. And check this out. Zubitech revealed on Twitter that multiple former Deviation employees are now working at PlayStation Studios. So this is actually a rather interesting turn of events. I mean, we know for a fact that Sony was very excited about the Deviation partnership when they first announced it, and if something did go wrong with that game for whatever reason, did they maybe pivot and support Jason Blundell instead? I mean, he now works at PlayStation Studios apparently, so did they give him his own studio? That's currently what people are kind of speculating with this, and if they did, I mean, they certainly haven't made that public, which, if you think about that, this isn't the only secret PlayStation studio that is rumored. We've also heard about the secret Sony San Diego studio that's working with Naughty Dog. We've seen job descriptions of that and everything, so who knows? Maybe Sony has a few tricks up their sleeve here. If anything, it'll definitely be interesting to see what exactly these former Deviation employees are up to over at PlayStation, whether that be a new team or old. Anyways, though, that's it for this video, but I think 2024 is definitely shaping up to be something quite interesting. Sounds like some surprises are on the way, but till next time, peace out.